Hey, everybody, welcome back to a special edition of Jersey First TV. I am so pleased tonight to have two incredible men with me, Senator Pennacchio, Assemblyman Bergen. Welcome to Jersey First TV.
Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks, you guys. Thank you so much for coming on short notice. This is a really important conversation. We're going to have a lot of people watching tonight, an opportunity for us to educate people on what's going on in Trenton, a timely issue regarding the powers of the governor. So let me set the stage, and then both of you are going to weigh in and help us understand what we're dealing with here this week, okay? So what we know as of now is we had a bill on May 20th that went to session and didn't actually go to a vote, and that was the A5777. And that bill was all about really a trading of releasing the emergency status we're under in return for giving Murphy 15 emergency orders to stay in place, as well as his ongoing ability to manage the vaccine situation, CDC recommendations, and the pandemic as he sees fit. So there was a huge pushback, as you guys know, and a lot of people very, very concerned about this bill. It was not voted on. So, Assemblyman, we now have a situation where the Speaker came up with a new bill. Do you want to let everybody know what we're looking at now for this new bill in terms of its status?
Yeah, well, absolutely. So if I look like I'm looking all over the screen, it's because we just got
now
hot off the press a copy of the bill tonight, just now, as a matter of fact, right before this started. So we have the bill, the Assembly version of the bill in hand. What's unique about this situation, and it's really important for everybody to understand, and should be very scary for people to understand, is that this bill in its current version is going to completely circumvent public scrutiny and comment. The Speaker and the Senate President have the ability to move bills onto the floor automatically into second reading. Which that means is, we all learn about how a bill becomes a law as kids, and it's supposed to go through a committee and be subject to public scrutiny. The bill as presented right now is skipping that entire process, and will go straight to the floor. So we got it now, 7 o'clock on the 1st. On the 3rd, it'll be on the floor for a vote without the public having any opportunity to comment, weigh in at all. And it's really, it's kind of a catastrophe of the democratic way of government. Yeah. This is not the way things are supposed to be done. And you know what's sad about what's happening right now too, Elizabeth, is that it doesn't have to be this way. The governor's executive order, the pandemic, I think it ends in the middle of the month or something like that, or coming up soon. Right. The Speaker of the Assembly dropped this Assembly session on the 3rd. He chose the 3rd. He could have chosen the 4th or the 5th. And had it go through committee process.
Right.
So it's really it's a shame, and people should be concerned not just the language of the bill, but the process about what it's going through.
Absolutely. And Assemblyman, take a look at it while we're talking here. And I want you to see if anything stands out in comparison to the old bill, because this is literally breaking right now, and we're not sure what the changes are. Senator, we have a bill that, as Assemblyman talked about, skipped the entire process, the typical process, right? So procedurally, it's a little bit questionable. No chance for public comment, going straight to a vote on Thursday. How much does this concern you as we continue to be in a situation where there do not seem to be 3 functioning branches of government in this state?
Well, Elizabeth, the whole thing concerns me. You had mentioned how the old bill got pushed back. Well, the reason that they need a bill anyway is because the governor's getting pushed back. People are fed up with his executive orders. Now, keep in mind, this is the same governor and administration that had you have an 8-hour commute for a 6-inch snowstorm and then was brining roads at 55 degrees.
Right.
Now they are in charge of the pandemic. So what the governor did, he utilized it, I think, was more based on political science than it was real science. In the meantime, a lot of people have gotten hurt. Frankly, a lot of people have died for all the draconian measures that this governor has ruled by and inflicted on the state of New Jersey. If we were a country based on what the Star Ledger reported, we would have the highest COVID per capita death rate in the world. And we want to reward that? I don't think we want to reward that. And the Assemblyman is correct. I mean, here we are. We could have had oversight. I know we've all voted on bills, tried to make them bills of the day. where we have bipartisan committees with subpoena power. That way we can get the answers. And we've been trying to do this for well over a year now. So to think that they're going to put these bills on for automatic second reading without going through the process of committee, to me, it's not a surprise. They're just continuing to do the same old, same old. But again, to me, it's because of the pressure of the citizens of New Jersey. They're through with being ruled, okay? Yes. And you saw how quickly they jumped on top of them. So it's now up to us to convince that legislature that they got to do the right thing. Even before they had this bill, they should have had committee meetings with subpoena powers. We should have been able to vet what was done correctly, what was done incorrectly, to make sure that it's not done again. Instead, we're codifying what the governor did for the first 14 months, how drastic it was, and instead of calling it an executive order, now we're calling it a state statute.
Right. So you're absolutely right. And the people need to rise up. And we're going to talk at the end of this interview about how we can do that. We know there's a rally on Thursday, but other ways that we can do that. So we had 140, I counted them, 140 executive orders in the last 14 months. The last version of this bill, Assemblyman, had 15 of those staying in place. How many do you see there now?
There are 14.
Okay. And so we're not sure which one.
Yeah, one thing that I have seen, one small bit of good news, and I'm only just reading through this first. One small bit of good news is that they do have language in here now saying that the governor's executive orders cannot be more restricted than the CDC guidelines. That's a good step in the right direction. Okay. Last time, it just couldn't be more restricted than he currently had. So this is a bad bill. It's going to be a bad bill. I know that. But some small silver lining in here is that I did find language in there right now that says that his restrictions cannot be more restricted than the CDC. And that will certainly help to a degree.
Okay. So that will address some of those issues regarding people's concerns over him getting more draconian than even the CDC, which is not an elected body, by the way, but, just to remind people that want to tell us how we're going to address this pandemic. What does
you assume that we all agree with the CDC, the WHO, and the National Health Institute, and Anthony Fauci. Some of us take great umbrage with those decisions. By the way, a lot of them are conflicting.
Yes,
that's true too. They
are conflicting, and many of us have great issue with them. And we pray a lot of that starts to come out as well. So look at that last paragraph, Assemblyman. There was reference in there to the governor being able to make all decisions related to the distribution, administration, management of the vaccine. Is that still there?
Just bear with me a second.
And just to let everybody know, as he looks at that, one of the big concerns is that the 15, now 14 executive orders that were to remain in place did have an expiration date of January 1st, 2022. However, the last paragraph of the old bill allowed ongoing power for the governor to manage vaccine distribution, administration, management, all sorts of stuff related to the pandemic with no expiration date. What are you finding now?
Yeah, the answer to your question is yes. The last paragraph is still in there. It's changed slightly, so I can't. It's going to take me a while to really totally understand it, but it is still in there. It lasts until January 11th of 2022.
Okay.
Unless the governor notifies the legislature by January 1st. That he needs it more, and that it could last for another 90 days. So it appears as though that last paragraph is still in effect through January 11th of 2022. But if the governor notifies the legislature by January 1st of 2022, and by the way, it says notify, not seek approval from, that he can extend it for 90 more days.
Notify.
Yeah. Now I'm not a lawyer. I'm not even probably that smart. So I'm reading this for the first time. So it's going to require a lot of review before I know truly what it means.
Well, but thank you, though. We appreciate you, getting that moments before we went live and being willing to help us look through it. So, Senator, let me ask you a question as he continues to look at that. Based on that language not changing that much, could the governor not mandate a vaccine if he's given power to manage vaccine distribution, administration? How much power could he potentially have regarding exemptions, regarding telling people you will take this vaccine? Isn't that open-ended?
Elizabeth, the past is prologue, as they say. You don't have to look you don't have to look and read your tea leaves. They're there. Take a look at the way he's treated the state the last 14 months. And the Democrats and the legislature happily stepped aside. They circled their wagons to protect this governor. And in the meantime, you could see the disastrous results that we get. And then when we're trying to, insisting that we do our jobs, why were so many people killed in nursing homes? Why did 25,000 people die? Why were 1/3 of the businesses shuttered? Why did he pick winners and losers? Why did he not compensate them? We're met with a deafening silence. So see, I understand that you want to get into weeds with this bill, but my answer was no. Right from the very first word that I read in the bill, it's gone. Yeah. That's a no starter for me. But my answer, unfortunately, is if this bill passes, this bill is going to give you so much stuff that you don't want and more, all based on still having this quote emergency. Even though the bill, I think, says that the emergency is over, which leads me to a legal question. And now I'm not an attorney. I may play one sometimes on television. You almost got away, and I didn't think they should have gotten away with a lot of the things as far as First Amendment issues, takings, the breaking of contracts between landlords and tenants and utility companies and all. That was under emergency powers.
Right.
If you take away the emergencies, what I would like to see is the Office of Legislative Services, and I'm going to ask them for a report on whether or not parts of this bill, if not the bill in its entirety, are unconstitutional. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it's above my pay grade, like the governor said, but I'm just a dentist. Talk to me about root canals. But if I take something away from you, I have constitutional protections that says I got to be paid or I got to be compensated. Otherwise, the government can start there and never end. So there's a lot of constitutional issues that are involved with that. But ultimately, one of the biggest issues, and you talk about the very last paragraph, I would never let anybody stick a needle in my child's arm unless I gave him permission.
Yeah. That's a non-starter. Assemblyman. Yeah.
If I could just say something too, and this is my biggest problem with the bill. I have a lot of problems with this bill and the concept, but my biggest problem with the bill is even if it was written perfect, we all loved it, and it limited the governor completely and took away and just had kind of cursory executive orders. There's nothing in the bill that prevents him from just issuing a new state of emergency tomorrow.
Yeah.
So it doesn't. He could just. It's all smoke and mirrors, in my opinion. At any time, any day, he can just decide, yeah, I don't like that deal anymore, or something's changed that makes me feel a little differently. Put in another public health emergency for the same disease and start all over again. There's nothing that does that, and that's really what's missing. And that's what the senator has a piece of legislation. I have a piece of legislation out there that would limit the governor's executive order authority. That's the key. Yeah. All the rest of this is just, it's really useless. It has no teeth.
It has no teeth. And you make a very good point, because COVID's not going away. There'll be a cycle of it next year. And he's done a good job building the fear. So there's no reason why he wouldn't shut us down again. I mean, really, what's to prevent him from doing this as he's done in the past? And the amount of fear. Now, Senator, you made a good point. Why are we even looking at this bill? It should be a non-starter, should be a no from the first word. But the reality is he's convinced so many people that he's protecting them, that what he's doing is keeping them safe. Is that not a powerful emotion?
Well, the people that he convinced, unfortunately, the Democrat majorities in the legislature, they could fix this. Okay, the Assemblyman has a great bill. Bill says that you have to go back to the legislature every 2 weeks, and you have to tell us. We'll vet you. We'll do committee hearings. In order to gain permission to have that emergency power continue for another 2 weeks. His bill, unfortunately, needs the signature of the very person that we're trying to convince to give his executive orders. I do it through a resolution which would let the people decide, and it would bypass the government. All you would need is a supermajority, one session, or I think 2 majorities in 2 consecutive years in order to put it on the ballot. That way, this governor and no other future governor would ever do the same thing to us again. If he had done it, and if we were number 1 in the nation as far as COVID survivability, businesses not being shuttered, then I would say he did a great job. But I look at Florida, that's a governor that did a great job. And he didn't come anywhere near the methods and the draconian style and the rules that this governor did.
Yeah, he gets an F, definitely. And here we have Pennsylvania last month. They actually moved to minimize the governor's power. We are apparently moving to increase the governor's power. Now, you brought up the Assemblyman's bill, and I want to talk about that for sure, because it remains a frustration, I think. We're talking about procedural games that are happening with this bill that's apparently going to the floor on Thursday. So, Assemblyman, tell us about A 4147 and what that's all about and where you're at with that bill.
Yeah, so look, the bill has not been successful getting moved, but we've tried everything under the sun to do it. All right, we really have, and we tried moving it on the floor with something called an order of a day, twice in the Assembly, twice in the Senate. And then I did something where I tried to relieve it, a motion to relieve it from committee. We've done everything that we possibly can, and they just tabled the motion. And during the last Assembly session, I did something that wasn't very popular with the Democratic majority, and that was that I called out Lou Greenwald specifically. Okay, because I'm tired of this.
Yeah.
The majority party, the Democrats, like they get to hide behind this label. No, that's crap. Lou Greenwald, the Speaker Coughlin, those people have the ability to put this up. It's their fault.
Right.
They could change it any day. I'm tired. They get upset with me for making it personal. It is personal. They have the ability to do it. They're choosing not to do it. This bill is a good bill. And you know what, Elizabeth, if 14 days isn't enough, has to be 30. Let's make it 30, man. Let's talk about it.
Right.
Let's come up with a bipartisan solution. You know, the Republicans in the state assembly represent over 3 million people in the state of New Jersey. Guess how many Republicans of the 28 of us were in the discussions and development of this bill? Goose egg.
None.
Right? So they're cutting out 3 million people, the population, just because they can't see beyond party lines.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. Let's come up with it. If it's not 30 days for my bill, 84147, if it's not 14, I mean,
14.
You want 30, you want 45, you want 60. I don't care. Let's at least have a discussion.
Yeah.
Right? Just to table it is ridiculous.
Yeah, just to table it and tell people exactly what the bill says so they understand.
The bill is very simple. And because I'm a simple man, all right? So the bill is very simple. It just says that for every executive order the governor issues in a state of emergency, that executive order is only valid for 14 days. At the end of the 14th day, the legislature must take action on it. They can either instead extend it indefinitely, can stop it right there, can extend it for 30 days. The legislature can do whatever they want with that executive order. But if the legislature says it's over, it specifically says in there that the governor cannot put a substantially similar executive order back in place during the same state of emergency.
Nice.
So it gives the power to the legislature. But look, I was a military man. I understand as a commander and someone in charge, and I'm also a business owner as an executive, you need flexibility to make decisions. We understand that.
Yeah.
But you don't need indefinite flexibility.
No.
You need short-term ability to act, and then there are 3 branches of government. And we should all be involved.
Yes, and you know what? You make a good point. And this state, the people in this state did everything they could in those 14 days to flatten the curve. Everyone pitched in. Everyone was willing to do what we thought we had to do. And then it didn't end. And then it got worse. And then it became abusive. Senator, why doesn't our governor trust the people in this state?
It's all political. And same thing with the legislature. In the beginning, you had little grumblings from the legislature because they wanted to buy in. Afterwards, they found out that they didn't have to buy in. All they had to do was protect the governor. Governor went to Supreme Court and said, we need $10 billion. Republicans said, no, we don't.
Right.
Okay, as a matter of fact, the coffers are flush with money. We're going to be fine. The Supreme Court, and its infantile wisdom, I should say, decided to give them $10 billion. The rest is history. They did not need that money. The governor decided to give them photo by mail, free, carte blanche. And we know all how that turned out. Just a point that you made before about Pennsylvania. In the very beginning, it was announced between New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut that we would treat COVID as a regional experience. Right. And we did. Unfortunately, for New York and New Jersey, it's been a horrific regional experience. But those 2 states, they're opened. Yeah. New York is open. New York has gotten rid of the emergency powers that Cuomo has. Connecticut is far beyond where we are. So somebody has to answer these questions. I asked one question, and I've yet to get an answer. The state epidemiologist, a Princeton graduate, Dr. Ten, I believe her name is. I wrote her. I asked her a question. I've yet to get an answer. Did you agree with the directive that you must take COVID patients into nursing homes? You're not allowed to rest. Simple enough question. She's a doctor. I know, as a retired dentist, I know what the answer to that question should be. And if she answered yes, they should revoke her license.
Right.
But she didn't answer at all. So we have no idea if there was any dissent at all, why all these rules and these executive orders were being promulgated. So I think this governor is being very, very ill-served. And when you call out one of his commissioners, unfortunately for him, he doubles down on them. And
yeah, they close ranks. They close ranks, Senator, and we don't get the answers that we need. We need answers on the nursing home. You know, Assemblyman, what is it? We get frustrated, just the common people here in New Jersey. We elect people. We think we have balance of powers. You know, we're called the knuckleheads. The knuckleheads are just signing a blank check for this governor. What's going on with your fellow assembly people that they cannot see this?
Well, you know, so here's the thing. Okay, it took me about a year to figure this out. And it's so simple, but it took me forever to figure, because I was like, why? I know some of the Democrats, rank and file guys. I talked to them on the phone. They're normal people. Yeah. Why won't they do something? And finally it dawned on me about a year into this. Right now, they're not to blame. If you think about it, the governor, he does what he wants, and they can always tell their constituents, oh, the governor, you know, I agree, the governor. So why would they want to take the power back where then they have to make the decisions?
Wow.
Yeah, you know, because then they're on the hook. Then they're making the legislation, they're on the hook. The legislature, the Democratic majority, is actually making the rules. So then they become the person that can be blamed. And it's an election year, and they don't want that. It's easier for them to just quietly complain about the governor to their constituents. They can say, yeah, we don't have the power. It's the governor. But once they take the power back and do the right thing, then they actually have the ability to do stuff.
Right.
And then they could be on the hook. So I maybe I'm wrong, but I kind of feel like that's what's going on here.
Yeah.
You know, once they take it back, then if something goes wrong, they're to blame, and it's going to hurt them in an election year. Right now, they can just put their hands up and cry that they have no choice.
Okay. Well, and on that note, though, we will remind them in November who voted for this bill on Thursday, among other things. So they're going to put their name on this bill. And some of them, for the old bill, I think I heard you tell the story, they just left yes votes for the old one. So we need to hold them accountable to that. And we need to hold them accountable that this continues to keep our children. Let's talk about masks for a minute, because we're all just tired of this. And Senator, I know you've been speaking out about this. We continue to have our children masked. Who's responsible for that?
The governor's responsible. I read a study, I think it was an Israeli study. The ages of children between 0 and 9, zippo, 0. They don't carry, they don't spread, they don't get sick.
No.
And yet, why are we mandating that these small children wear masks? Why are they wearing masks outside in 90-degree temperature? If you had a dog in a car and it's 90 degrees outside, the police, actually anybody now, because we made a law, has the right to break that window and let that dog go and breathe fresh air. And here we are, we're forcing these children to wear masks, 90-degree weather. That's crazy. I think some of the pressure eventually is going to get to the governor. Hopefully, we're in discussions right now, we're having another Republican panel, like we have in homes and businesses, and getting some superintendents and some doctors and some pediatricians to come before us and testify. That way we can show the public exactly how non-scientific some of these edicts and these rulings are.
They're very
if I could just give, if I could just give a quick shout out to Senator Pennacchio, these panels and stuff that he's putting together. Yes. I mean, they're really moving the needle, because it's bringing professionals together, and the Democrats won't, and he's taking the initiative. It's pretty cool stuff. So that's awesome stuff, Senator.
It is awesome stuff. And it's a good example. You're both this way, though. You're both fighters. It's a good example where people say, well, what's the point? You know, we're the minority. We've been the minority. We can't do anything. No, we can do something. We have to do something. And both of you, that's right.
Whether you do it or not, you got to try. You got to
try.
You might as well try.
Yeah, you got to try.
Well, can I get on my soapbox for a second, Elizabeth, about this topic about trying? Okay. So, listen, you got a lot of listeners all over the state of New Jersey, okay, in Democratic districts that want to be Republican, the Republicans there. If somebody complains to me about the legislative map as a reason why we can't take over majority control of the Republican Party one more time, I'm going to dive out my window, okay, because it's ridiculous. We cannot win and take back seats and win on the floor and win in any way, in any shape, form, if we don't try.
Right.
If we don't set a goal and say we want to take back seats, we want to be a majority, we want to be more Republican, we want to get some of these people out. Sometimes, quite frankly, and it's a shame, we're lazy, and we say, well, the map, it makes it hard.
Yeah.
Bullshit. I don't know if I can say it on your show, but that's how I feel.
You just did.
I just did. Because it is. We got to get angry. We have to get motivated, and we have to try. And and having people like Senator Pennacchio and I who do it, I mean, it's refreshing. But we need more people.
We do need more people, but I do want to thank you on behalf of the gazillion comments I'm getting right now, and so many people that know that you guys are fighters and you do it in your own way, in your own style. And the other thing, Assemblyman, I firmly believe civil liberties and freedom, just basic things that the Democrats used to say they stood for, they have no leg to stand on with those issues anymore. Those are our issues. And for us not to think that we could win and convince people, moderates in this state, that we're fighting for them, that's a shame. We should get that message out, because Senator, don't you agree that we are now the party of protecting civil liberty?
Well, that goes without saying, but getting back to that message, and we spoke briefly about the election, I would hope that the entire legislature, I guess I can speak for myself as a legislator, but I would hope that whoever is the nominee for governor makes the pandemic and the response that this governor had, makes his whole governance, including grinding roads at 55 degrees, the DMV, unemployment, which you get tons, of course, still. That's got to be the centerpiece of the campaign. It's got to be a referendum on how he handled the campaign. And it's not only how he handled it, the Democrats allowed him to do it. They had their opportunity, Assemblyman, correct? And they just stood on the sidelines. They codified each and every single decision, which they may want to try to codify again. Taxes are important. Nobody, I don't think I've ever raised a tax in my life. So tax to me is a very, very important issue. But if you talk about anything else except the pandemic, okay, and you address those soccer moms, why those kids are still wearing masks, why you kept them out of school for a year, why their grandmothers and their parents died in nursing homes and you weren't even able to visit them. If you address that issue, you're going to win over a lot of people that are more than just Republicans. And the governor deserves to be given that 21 and done.
I totally agree with you. Now, we've had a lot this past year. I think back even to last January in 2020 when we were fighting in Trenton for exemptions and things like this. People are getting weary. They're getting weary of fighting. They want to trust people like you guys that are in there fighting for us. But we've got to tell them, Assemblyman, what they need to do right now. So you are on the receiving end, your offices, of all the phone calls and emails. Let's tell people and educate them right now. What can they do tomorrow? The rally's on Thursday, but what can they do tomorrow that is most effective, especially those in the Democrat districts? What can they do to tell their representatives, hey, don't vote for this bill? Well,
look, first of all, I want to say that people need to understand that every phone call, every tweet, every email, it does make a difference. Yes. It does. It might not make a difference on the vote on the floor, because the Democrats will vote in blocks, and that's just how they do it. But it makes a difference in their caucus room when they're talking, and that's what made that bill get pulled the last time. It's the emails, the tweets, the phone calls. They really, really do make a difference, even if they don't return them or they don't pick up the phone. Yeah. Trust me, I hear it. I know that they get annoyed, and I know they get nervous. When they start getting enough phone calls, the goal should be, before a vote like this, to shut down their legislative office. They can't even take another phone call, right? That should be their goal. Yeah, because you know what? If you do that, then the staff is going to be calling the members saying, like, holy cow, you need to do something. And that's the way you motivate them. It's volume, it's intensity, and it does work. It really moves the needle with these people, I'm telling you. And I don't get badgered as much for things because I'm voting the right way and doing the right thing. But when people call my office with an issue, and there's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of those folks, man, I'm on the phone. People, I know. My office is calling me like, stop the madness. Okay? Right. So it works. It works. Do it. Call, tweet, Facebook message.
Okay, so we're being clear to everybody. Tonight, you can start with the emails. Tomorrow, tonight, tweet. Phone calls. You don't need to. You can skip the senator and the assemblyman. We know where they are.
I love you though. But you can call me if you want.
Yeah. You can still call them, but we need especially those great citizens who are in the Democratic districts. The Republican side of it, it seems they're still unified. They're probably not any of them voting for this bill. I hope that remains the same. That's what the news we knew last time. But we need to continue to keep the pressure on. So everyone who's listening, I know this is going to be shared all over the place. Senator, do you agree with the Assemblyman to put the pressure on tomorrow?
Yeah, I just can't understand how the Assemblyman said 3, 4, 5 people called his office. I would wish only 5 people called my office. There's, in 20 years, probably one of the most significant things I've seen in Trenton where the elected officials actually changed their mind was on that January day, rainy, cold January day, banging that drum, unrelenting as far as chanting. I was there. Yeah. I was there. I was there how people tried to be strong-armed into voting yes. There's 2 things that politicians need in order to get elected. Most of them want money and votes. Yep. Given my choice, I'd rather have more votes. So emails are fine, but they're sort of innocuous. You get on that phone, okay? You make sure you tell that person on the other end of that line, if you vote for that bill, okay? I don't know what it's going to take, but I made 1 phone call today. I'll make 100 phone calls, and I got 100 friends that will do likewise. I will knock on doors, okay? I will write a check, albeit small, but I have other people writing that small check too, and we're going to come after you, okay? You may win, but we're going to make you sweat under the collar in doing so.
Yeah, and they may not win. We have an election in November. What a better time to remind them they're going to be needing to work hard for those votes. So everyone heard the senator and the assemblyman clearly. You know what you have to do. Many of you have done it before. January 13th is still very close in our memory, and it does work and it is valid. So let's do that tomorrow to remind everyone there is a rally on Thursday in Trenton at noon, and that's when the vote is happening that day. So that is Thursday. And I encourage everyone to listen tomorrow morning to Bill Spadia, 101.5 from 6 to 10. You guys both know what a big supporter he is of all of this, and he is staying up to speed on it all. He's going to have a lot of people on to talk about it. In fact, you guys should call in tomorrow.
Just real quick, Elizabeth. Yeah. Thursday's vote is really important because that's the first time that the legislature, correct me if I'm wrong, Assemblyman, is actually going to go on the record as to whether or not they liked all these executive orders and they like the direction this governor took. They're codifying 13 of those draconian measures that he did. So Thursday is the time that you should make your presence felt, and you say, I hated it for the first 14 months. What makes you think I'm going to like it for the next 6 months?
Exactly.
Yeah. And one thing, Elizabeth, if I could just say one thing, this is just my personal opinion, but at the last rally that we had, it was for 5777. I did get up and say something because there were a lot of people coming out of the State House with masks, and the crowd was into it, and a lot of them were going up and getting in their face when they were leaving. I just asked, you got a lot of people here who are going to be there. We got to be the bigger people here. When someone's coming out of the State House wearing a mask, leave them alone. They're not the one making the decision. And then because it just detracts from our message. And I think really, and I just would appreciate that. Anyone who's listening, who's going to come, let's be the bigger people. Let's direct our energy at the legislatures and the governor. Anybody else walking around with 17 masks on their face, just let them be.
You know what? You're so right. We have the better ideas. We don't need to behave like that. Let's keep it high end because we definitely have the people behind us. So I really appreciate you mentioning that. And the other thing I want to say in support of your bill, there is a place that everyone could go to. It's standforhealthfreedom.com, and they can actually fill out a form that gets emailed to their representative to support your 4147 and the Senate version of that. So again, guys, standforhealthfreedom.com is where you need to go. Tomorrow, you're calling, you're emailing, you're talking respectively to your legislator at representatives, Thursday showing up in Trenton, and really overall holding people responsible for the way they vote and whether or not they stand for us. Jersey First is all about fighting for families, for businesses, for freedom in this state. So we remain steadfast with you guys and what you're doing. I want to thank you both for your time tonight. I want to thank you for what you're doing for this state and continuing to fight for us. We really appreciate you. There's so many great comments here, just respecting the both of you. So again, thank you on behalf of everyone.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Great job, Assemblyman. Keep up the good work.
All right, guys.
Thank you both. I had fun. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And to my audience, we will be back Thursday night to talk about masking our children, and we'll see what happens on Thursday in Trenton. Okay, everybody, have a good night.
Good night, all.